All right. To the hottest strife, conflict, whatever you want to call it, in the League of Legends esports right now. Last week on this show, MarkZ continued a conversation he had previously had. I think it was on the broadcast, right? Or on one of your shows, GLT, I think. You had said you previously mentioned it. Where he said that Biofrost does not have the champ pool, or he's concerned he doesn't have the champ pool that he wishes he did. I cut this out and posted it separately on YouTube, and everyone was like, what does Mark think he's talking about? Look at all these champions he's played. How dare he do this?
You should have cut the part where he said he hopes TSM bombs out and just added it to
yeah. And then
just make me look like a complete hater.
And then this week, as I was walking to Biofrost over from the fan interaction area to the place where I was interviewing, he's like, "Hey Travis, you know that thing that you had on your show where Mark said that thing?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Everyone link that to me this week." And I was like, "Okay, I will ask you about it." And so then I asked him about it, and he was super polite and was like, "I could totally see where he's coming from in saying that I'm shit. Like, it's a perfectly reasonable thing for him to think, even though I think, like, maybe in these situations I'm not, or, whatever. But, like, it's cool, like, everybody has their opinion, and Mark has his, and, like, it's completely fine." And then, now Mark is back under fire again.
That's an EU answer.
And by the way, if you want, no personality. If you want to see the interview, it's up on my YouTube channel. I just posted it there. It's also on the second page of Reddit, I think, if you prefer to discover stuff there. So,
all right. So, right as a kind of diatribe as that was, Travis, it's not really the topic. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go over my argument again. I wasn't saying Biofrost can't play these champions. TSM's not picking them. And then I don't care what you pull up from 4 weeks ago I'm talking about right now. Anyways, that was a whole thing. Biofrost defended himself. Great. I love that. But I just wish he had more fire when he did it. Like, I know he's Canadian. I know he's a nice boy. So I'm not saying necessarily that, like, he needs to come out and say I'm an idiot. But I just wish he was like, I wish he just said I was wrong, I wish... Because I don't even want a back and forth. It always favors the content creator when you have a back and forth. The pro player doesn't have their own platform necessarily.
Not really. I mean, I don't think that's accurate.
You don't think so?
I think it definitely favors the players because the fans like the players.
Well, so I was gonna say yes, fans like the players more. But if, like, let's say Biofrost said I was wrong, and then I put out another video saying I think he's wrong.
Oh yeah, it's your job to create this content.
His job is to shut the fuck up and practice, and my job is to talk about it. So I think at some point it does circle back around to favor the content. Maybe maybe you guys have a different opinion because you guys have been in this doing this longer than me technically. So I'm sure you guys might have a different experience. But for me, when I was in the team environment and, like, SI was going around and SI would make fun of our players, if you shot back at them, eventually the fans are like, you shouldn't even be listening.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect example because Thorin, it's like
I mean, I
Thorin
guess
says
if you're
something.
Be super persistent about it as a content creator,
right?
But if like you put out your piece of content and they say no, you're wrong, fans are like, ha.
Yeah.
So that time, 100%, they will agree. But it just created, like, a weird back and forth. But I just wish, like, one, they responded to criticism on a more individual level. And, like, I feel like that would create a lot more hype around the discussions than, like, there's been some chirping about your champion pool, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm glad Travis was specific and said, Mark said this, or, Emily said this, or Kelsey said this, Like, I would prefer if that was that. And then the players, and I understand Biofrost isn't the guy, but, like, if, let's say it was a criticism at Double Lift or a more outspoken player, that they're just like, I think they're full of shit. Like, I would love that. I don't know how you guys feel, but personally, I'm not afraid of a back and forth with a pro player or an argument. Like, and I would prefer to see that than, like, what happens right now. Like you said, in Europe and a little bit in North America, we're like, I can see where they're coming from, and there's some truth in it, but it's not really that way, and here's why.
Kelsey just admitted she's afraid to even say if EU teams are going to get in North America. Of course, she's afraid of going head to head with these players.
Yes, I'm terrified of Biofrost. Nah, I mean it's pretty good because sometimes it's like I will be interviewing a player who I know has read something where I've criticized him, and he's like, "Well, some people will say this."
Yeah.
And I think they're wrong. And it's very pointed, but yeah. So I think it's a little bit interesting. I mean I don't mind the dialogue. I can see why there are reasons not to have the dialogue on both the content creation and the pro player side. I think especially like someone like me. I mean the welding green thing. Yeah. There's definitely a certain like amount of gravitas to being in the scene. And I think for the pro player, yeah, if you're gonna and if the content creator continues to like push the dialogue, it just seems like they're being like nitpicky and sore loser and everything. So I think that there's like two sides to that. I think it would be cool if we had more of it, because if we did have more of it, then it wouldn't be, I don't think there would be as much like of a stigma, and it wouldn't be as immediate fan reaction, like citing one way or the other just because of the content creator said or the pro player said, and then you could have a lot more of these like types of discussions that I think would ultimately benefit the scene more. But again, it would be a huge time thing. It's another type of content, and then teams aren't necessarily sure like what types of content they want to invest in or what types of content they want to do. So I understand why it's not something that they're focusing on right now.
I'm sad that nobody ever came out with the caster tier list, because a couple different people said they were.
Like Reggie tweeted it. I was like, I can't wait for this shit. Didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Emily? Do you want to go to war with pro players?
Not particularly.
Go to war, but like more engagement.
I mean
I would.
it's a little weird to me, but cool because like I don't know, esports is very much its own thing, right? So coming from a more traditional sports background where there's like a more clear separation, I guess, between content creators and media and the athletes themselves, and just a lot more developed infrastructure. I think one thing that's actually really cool about League of Legends esports and being in League of Legends esports is that you can be so close to the players. So in that regard, I really like the idea of having kind of like a funny back and forth, like calling each other out kind of thing and getting people riled up. I think the only thing is like I hope both sides and the audience know that, just because I don't know, like I'm really bad at dealing with a lot of like personal attacks. Like I'll be super upfront about that. I really handle it poorly. The person that hates me the most is myself. So in that way, like a lot of what people say, it's never going to get to the level of like what I think of myself, but it's still really exhausting for me to deal with mentally. So in that regard, I would just want to make sure that people would know that it was an open dialogue and not me personally attacking a player, because I don't want to make an extra effort to invite even more personal attacks than I already kind of received.
I remember when
like
I would have these conversations with Emily about like criticism she would have of teams, and I would say, you know, you should publish that. And then so like she started working on things where she wanted to criticize Faker for a specific thing he does in games. And I was like, you should call that things Faker does. And she chickened out and she called it things SKT does. And this is like the perfect Emily content problem right there, you know?
Yeah, I think it can be weird being as close as it is in esports. Actually, I sometimes have the opposite problem where like I was at a house party that Scara threw, and a handful of pro players showed up, and I was like, I railed on you guys yesterday on GLT. Have you seen that?
They don't watch your content, Mark.
Which is fine. Like I don't care.
It's more like when people say stuff on the broadcast. That's I think the bigger problem.
Yeah, but I mean, the GLT thing or the thing you're talking about with Biofrost wasn't on.
No, I know it wasn't. I'm just saying, like, I think pro players I don't think consume much of this content unless they're in the headline. And I think that the only exception is obviously the broadcast, because people will see it, or it's so high profile that people will hear about it or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's like this kind of stuff.
Although
so
I did love it.
Get a little too close.
I did love it when you guys rated all the different pro players, and then Scar tweeted that thing that was like, say something mean to me or whatever, and Keith just replied with, you rated me as the worst player in the NALCS or something to Scar. And Scar was just like, ouch, this actually did get to me.
I mean, we did that to just push the envelope because like this was when all the tier lists were coming out.
Yeah.
We're like, let's go next level and like literally assign hundreds.
Yeah,
of
it was
zero
almost like a
ratings.
parody. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
But that was good though. So to sum it all up, first you were disappointed in Biofrost chant pool, and then he politely addresses it and disagrees, and now you're disappointed. You are just like you're just trying to fight this guy as much as possible. I can't wait to cut this clip out and put it on YouTube because it's gonna be so great. I'm just gonna be like, Mark is now angry.
Like I attacked your champion pool, Vincent.
So now we understand the real reason why Mark Zimmerman hates TSM is that he just wants the abuse.
Yeah.
Like he's really just.
They're too media. They're too media quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we discovered about Mark today.
Yeah. All right.